Well, get ready because Putin is about to attack the United States or our allies in NATO. He's coming. I mean, did you hear Uncle Joe Biden telling us this? Unless we send billions of dollars to Ukraine, Putin is coming for you. Forget the fact that Ukraine is the most corrupt country on the planet. Do you really want Putin to win? Like, who cares that Ukraine's corrupt? We can send them $200 billion and we don't know where it is. That's fine. But Putin will win if we don't send them money. And he's going to come to our house and ruin Christmas. Here is our commander-in-chief laying it all out for us.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to speak to you today about an urgent responsibility the Congress has to uphold the national security needs of the United States and, quite frankly, of our partners as well. This cannot wait. Congress needs to pass supplemental funding for Ukraine before they break for the holiday resources. Simple as that. Frankly, I think it's stunning that we've gotten to this point in the first place. If Putin takes Ukraine, he won't stop there. It's important to see the long run here. He's going to keep going. He's made that pretty clear. If Putin attacks a NATO ally, if he keeps going, and then he attacks a NATO ally, where we've committed as a NATO member that we defend every inch of NATO territory, then we'll have something that we don't seek and that we don't have today. American troops fighting Russian troops.
Okay. Did you catch that ultimate blackmailing technique? So you better approve money to Ukraine. You better send billions of dollars. Don't ask any questions, or I will be left with no choice but to send American sons and daughters to die for Ukraine against Russia, to fight Putin. If you miss that like blackmailing piece of this, I want to make sure and replay it here. Take a listen.
Well, we've committed as a NATO member that we defend every inch of NATO territory. Then we'll have something that we don't seek and that we don't have today. American troops fighting Russian troops. American troops fighting Russian troops if he moves into other parts of NATO.
Yeah. So you better send money because he's going. But the message here is he's going to invade Europe. He's going to attack NATO allies. He's going to hit American allies. He's going to hit America.
And
that's the argument here.
Going to further westward.
Yeah,
he's going to go.
They're not even saying that that there's a chance he might do it. They're saying he will do it.
Yes.
They're saying if we don't send billions more to Ukraine and Ukraine is forced to unconditionally surrender, then Putin is going to move into all parts of Europe. He's going to take over Poland. He's going to, he'll go to Germany next. He's going to go they'll be drinking vodka in Lisbon, Portugal. Like, that's the plan. Oh, and he's not going to stop there. He's coming for Alaska. He's coming for the United States. Putin is coming for you. And this is what they're hoping you'll believe. I mean, they've now moved to the level of insane with this talking point.
The problem is that most people don't understand that Russia and Russian government has never expressed interest in moving beyond the contested Donbass region. They have never said that. And you can
formerly
look it up,
Eastern Ukraine.
Right. And that it was not Putin that single-handedly launched the special military operation. It was voted by Parliament,
in
Russian
Russia.
Parliament,
right,
at the behest of those regions, Luhansk and Donetsk, they did petition Russia to come in and save them from further attacks from the Ukrainian army. Most people just don't understand that. They're just like, yeah, Putin came in because he wanted more land and he wants more and more. So it's a stupidity to repeat those things, but they count on you being that stupid.
Well, everyone in the White House is on the same page with this, by the way. So you can tell that this is a White House neocon talking point because neocons are on page with this, and so is the White House. And they are funded, of course, and built and run by the military-industrial complex. This is the deep state doing its speaking through these mouthpieces. No one better to pull this off than John Kirby. Watch.
Make no mistake, Selena, he hasn't given up his strategic goal of subjugating the entire country. He doesn't believe it ought to exist as a sovereign state. And so we can't support Ukraine. Their chief advisor yesterday said they're likely to lose this war if they lose U.S. support. And Putin gets all of Ukraine, then what? Then where does he go? Because right then, he's up against the eastern flank of NATO. And if you think the cost of supporting Ukraine is high now, just imagine how much higher it's going to be, not just in national treasure, but in American blood. if he starts going after one of our NATO allies, because as the president also said, we take our Article 5 commitments very seriously. And what we've had over the last 2 years is a Ukrainian military actually clawing back territory and pushing back Russian aggression without any foreign boots on the ground, including no American boots. American boots would very much have to be involved if Mr. Putin is let to have this strategic victory in Ukraine and then perhaps goes after one of our NATO allies.
So if you don't send money, we send American troops, because that's our, look, Congress, we're blackmailing you here. That's really the only solution. Well, Congress isn't biting.
Also, he's lying. He's lying by saying Ukraine has been clawing back territory. No, they haven't. They have not. And what he's implying here is that it's ethical to let them keep dying. But if we have to send our own bodies, then that's a warning. But otherwise, we should be A-okay with them dying on behalf of what we want.
Yeah, they haven't clawed back anything. And the area around Kiev that was given back was part of an agreement for peace. And that the only reason they even handed that back to them was because of a peace agreement that was being worked on that got torpedoed by Boris Johnson and NATO. This is laughable, by the way. Didn't want those parts of the country at all and handed it back as part of the peace agreement. It's written down on paper, by the way. You can read it for yourselves. Anyway, Congress isn't biting on this giving money bullshit. And Congress basically gave Biden the big BBC News middle finger last night.
Live from London, this is BBC News.
That is going to be used over and over now here on Redacted. We're going to call it the BBC News middle finger. So suddenly what's that?
I was just going to say, did you see Biden's tweet last night about the Congress and the blackmail?
No.
It says Republicans in Congress are threatening to cut off support for Ukraine. So they're threatening to cut off support unless they pass their partisan border policies for the United States. Says it's political blackmail, pure and simple, which means he's pissed off that the Republicans are blocking money to Ukraine in order to get money for our border.
Exactly.
So he wants to secure Ukraine border, but not our own.
Exactly.
And that's blackmail.
And I'm going to show you some record-breaking numbers at the border in just a moment, which will be stunning. And that really speaks to the argument that they want. So here is what suddenly the United States Congress woke up last night and decided to pretend to care about America instead of putting Ukraine and Israel first. They voted against spending $110 billion for Israel and Ukraine. The effort failed in a vote of 49 to 51, so barely. Every Republican voted against the measure. And even Bernie Sanders voted no, specifically because he was more focused on Israel. But nevertheless, specifically, they wanted to make sure that Ukraine is not getting $111 billion. And, well, of course, it would be chunked up, and basically they'd probably get about 60 of it, and some would go to Israel and then Taiwan as well.
Bernie Sanders specifically said that he did not believe that we should give the right-wing extremist Netanyahu government money with no strings attached to continue the inhumane war against the Palestinian people. So he all of a sudden has remembered that he is anti-war. He seemed to have forgotten for the last 2 years.
Yeah, it's very convenient. And a lot of these guys, convenient. Suddenly now, they're like, wait a minute, Ukraine is corrupt and we don't know where our money's going. The State Department has been saying that for years. We know that Ukraine is the most corrupt country in Europe, arguably in the world. And you knew this all along. The United States government has classified them as such. This is not a mystery. Rand Paul has been out there since the very beginning saying that we shouldn't be sending money to them. So suddenly this is a mystery. Suddenly they're having a crisis of conscience here, like Representative Perry. He said this. He says, we have no intention of writing checks to this most corrupt country on the planet for the good of cheer of Democrats and Republicans, he said, whatever you want to call them, he said. He said, according to Representative Perry, the U.S. pays for the Ukrainian government, their pensions, their government services, and the like, while they themselves cannot afford to provide Americans with their own pensions and security in the United States. And we know this. We're paying for their infrastructure in Ukraine. Sorry,
I think the
checkbook's done.
The last line of that document you showed said Chuck Schumer, once he realized it was going to lose, he changed his vote to a no.
Right.
Like,
He's an
Just for what?
opportunist. Yeah. He's like, well, I saw that we didn't have the vote, so I'm gonna also throw in and say, no, we're not doing that.
Well, what he said
like-
was like, oh, I'll tank it if it's going to lose. And then like he wasn't going to tank it. Right. And so then
Right,
I
that's
can
like you-
reintroduce another one.
Yeah.
Show up to a football game dressed at supporting Denver, and then they start losing, so you go in the back and change into an Eagles outfit and come out.
Yeah. Go Eagles. I was an Eagles fan the whole time. Wait a minute. Didn't I see you in a Broncos jersey earlier? No, those were old times.
This is bipartisan. It wasn't going to be, but it is now.
So last night during the Republican debate, there was a lot of fireworks, but Ukraine was at the heart of this debate. I was really stunned to hear this last night. And Vivek Ramaswamy really went after Nikki Haley, of course, who's a neoconservative, and she is absolutely fully in the tank for this same idea that the Biden administration is, that we should send billions of dollars into Ukraine, into the black hole of corruption. And she's fully on board with that. But Vivek called her out in much the same way that most members of Congress, like Jamal, what was his name? Jamal Bowman? Jamal Brown?
Bowman, yeah.
Bowman.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Jamal Brown. He couldn't, Bowman?
Jamal
Yes.
Brown, I think.
Brown. Okay, I'm sorry. Anyway, what was it? I think, yeah. Anyway,
Bowman is the one who launched the fire alarm.
Yes.
Same dude.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. He couldn't name anything in eastern Ukraine. He couldn't name anything about Donetsk, or he couldn't name anything about Luhansk. He couldn't name any of those cities in those areas. He doesn't know that there's ethnic Russians there. He doesn't know anything that since 2014 they've been bombing them indiscriminately and killing civilians. He doesn't know anything about that. Doesn't know anything about that, but he thinks, Putin is a madman. So last night, Vivek went after Nikki Haley specifically and asked her to name three of the provinces in eastern Ukraine, just three of the provinces in eastern Ukraine that had been formerly contested, which are now under Russian control. And this was an amazing moment. Watch.
I want everybody at home to note that I was the first person to say we need a reasonable peace deal in Ukraine. Now a lot of the neocons are quietly coming along to that position, with the exceptions of Nikki Haley and Joe Biden, who still support this, what I believe is pointless war in Ukraine. And I think those with foreign policy experience, one thing that Joe Biden and Nikki Haley have in common is that neither of them could even state for you three provinces in eastern Ukraine that they want to send our troops to actually fight for. Look at that. This is what I want people to understand. These people she has no idea what the hell the names of those provinces are, but she wants to send our sons and daughters and our troops and our military equipment to go fight it.
And you can hear the news anchor, they're trying to give her cover. Like, let's move on. Okay, that's enough.
She doesn't have to know
She doesn't have to name those things.
You
She
don't
doesn't
have
have
to
to name
study
those
war.
things. She doesn't have to name those things. And it's like this blank stare, like, huh? Do you want to respond? Sorry. No, but we need to keep sending money there. We need to send American sons and daughters there to fight in order to, I don't know, whatever, further neocons' wishes. It was an unbelievable moment. And what's amazing is, so that was last night. Then this morning, just a short time ago, this morning on Fox and Friends, they had Vivek on again for like a town hall kind of diner thing this morning. And they blasted the heck out of him this morning. And so they had like some sort of a satellite issue. Like they had him up, they were about to interview him, and then they lost the satellite. And then you can hear one of the Fox News hosts like blasting Vivek. And then they're like, oh, do we have him back? Okay, we've got him back. Well, now I'll just blast him right to his face and say that your policy on not sending billions to Ukraine is naive and ridiculous. Do you want Putin to win? This was an amazing moment. Watch this.
But the problem, I just like to know, when this policy is just ridiculous on Russia and Ukraine, he says, tell Russia basically they can have Ukraine if they promise not to have an alliance with China. I mean, if there's... can we hear us now? Hey, Vivek.
I can hear.
Vivek, are you comfortable? Are you comfortable with Russia taking as much as Ukraine as they want? Are you comfortable pulling all our aid out? And do you really believe that Vladimir Putin will agree not to have an alliance with China?
I think we have to play hardball there and make a hard deal that requires any reneging on that deal to have major consequences.
Like what? Like
for Russia.
sanctions,
So
like
the
we
answer
have
is,
right now?
I think it is not in our interest to strengthen the Russia-China alliance, and I think our policy
It's
right
gonna be
now
done
is
anyway.
driving Russia further into China's arms.
It's going to be
I
done
disagree
anyway.
with you, Brian. I
You
respectfully disagree with you on
cannot keep
that.
Russia from China.
I think Russia is going... I think the answer is we are driving Russia into China's hands. There are kinks in the armor of that relationship. Look at Russia sending weapons to India and to Vietnam after other meetings they've had.
Are you comfortable giving up Eastern Europe? Because you know they're already taking Moldova, already making moves on the Baltic already. They're taking more and more pieces of Georgia.
Tell you what I'm not comfortable
and all
with.
we've done is sit there and send blankets and MREs, and we got an invasion.
By the way, hold on. I'm sorry. We've only sent blankets to Ukraine because that doesn't sound
And
accurate.
MREs.
And meals
Bagged
ready to
food.
eat. Yeah, we've sent them
Those are some
MREs.
some expensive blankets. Like what kind of MREs? I mean, it's like Don Perignon in every MRE. What the hell?
I know, it's unbelievable. That's all we've sent is blankets and meals. Okay, sure.
So what is going to be next?
Because we have no idea how Ukraine has spent $200 billion of our money. We're forking over more taxpayer money.
Do you
so some
see how they
Ukrainian
fight?
kleptocrat can buy a
These
bigger
guys
house.
are the best
That's
fighters in
corrupt,
the.
and I'm not going to stand for that.
Ukrainians are probably the
That's a
best
lie.
fighters in the
Ukraine
world.
is not some democracy.
Ukraine is
That's
fighting for their
Oh, okay.
sovereignty.
Huh.
Well,
And they were
Here's
invaded.
something that the news
They were
media hasn't
invaded.
reported. Ukraine has actually assassinated a former presidential
It just
candidate
makes
from
you sound
2019,
so
but somehow the media
naive.
doesn't like to report that.
So naive.
Well,
You give
Brian,
up
I
Ukraine, and then in a few years you'll be criticizing Joe Biden for giving up
I
Ukraine.
respectfully, we can respectfully, Brian, I think that if I called Nikki Haley naive, you guys would be having a conniption.
Okay, they were screaming. What was applauded in the diner when he dumped on Ukraine?
Oh, you want to hear that again? Great, because I thought that was the most impressive moment. On the one hand, you had Brian Kilmeade on Fox saying something, right? What he was saying on the right side was one thing. And then what Vivek on the left side was of your screen was saying, got a huge applause line at the diner there about not sending $200 billion into the most corrupt country in the world, and we can't account for it. And we have thousands of people crossing our southern border in the United States, and why shouldn't we be protecting that? So anyway,
and those American diners knew that, and Brian Kilmeade did not. God help me.
I know.
Yes.
I mean, literally, all the diners are like applauding, and then like it was like an echo chamber. It was so fascinating to watch. On one side, it's like an out of touch media, and national billions is spent on the media, and then on the left side, like someone who's among the people. It was just let's play it again so you can see it in there.
These guys are the best fighters in the.
And I'm not going to stand for that.
Ukrainians are probably the best fighters in the world.
It's not some democracy.
Yeah. So
Wait.
Let me just.
I can't. Wait, he literally said Ukrainians are the best fighters in the world.
Yes. So on the right side of your screen, okay, on the left side you had Vivek saying, "I'm not going to send $800 billion so they can assassinate presidential candidates in Ukraine and send and buy luxury vehicles and luxury houses around the world and hundreds of billions of dollars." And on the right side of your screen on Fox, saying that Ukrainians are the best fighters in the world. How does the American military feel about that? Right? The Ukrainians are the best fighters in the world. It was a can we play that again?
And they can't get any territory back from Russia.
Yeah, let's play that again.
They fight. These guys are the best fighters in the.
And I'm not going to stand for that.
Ukrainians are probably the best fighters in the world.
It's not some democracy.
Yeah.
What is he studying?
I don't know, but I mean, look.
The State Department notes?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's really bizarre. It's really bizarre because a lot of these guys, they get these generals there, they get those neoconservatives there who are on the payroll, and they have an agenda, of course, which is the military-industrial complex. And so there's nothing more. This is not supporting the United States. This is not supporting the United States military. If you stand with like the United States men and women in military, you want them to go fight and die in Ukraine for Ukraine? What the hell? How does that protect us or help us in any way? It is absolutely ignorant and naive to think that that helps us in any way. In the same way that the idea that the war on terror helps the United States in any way, it doesn't. It makes us less secure and less safe. And that is verifiable. All you need to do is pick up a book and understand that. Go ahead, David.
I was going to say, maybe he knows that, knows something that we don't, that there's more U.S. soldiers in the Ukrainian army than we thought.
I mean, we have special forces there. There's a lot of Americans.
It's a good point.
Yeah. I mean, we know from sources that they are given just bare minimum training and given about 5 live bullets. That's it to use to fire.
And drugs. We have
drugs.
reported here that they're given drugs.
So they're the best fighters in the world. There's no army left. There's no military left. You guys, NATO killed 500,000 people in Ukraine. An entire generation is gone. They don't have a military anymore. They're the best fighters in the world. What are you smoking? But it was just a really stark moment on the left side of your screen to see these these people in this town hall, like hearing him talk about, we're not giving $200 billion to a corrupt government when our U.S. borders are pouring open, and this money is going to all these corrupt oligarchs in Ukraine. It was really like a bizarro moment, out of touch. So,
right, and the hosts were like, "Oh wait, what's being applauded? Not what I'm saying."
Yeah. You're applauding.
Maybe I should think about what I'm saying and go back to my
not to
books.
mention that our special forces that are in Ukraine must be barefoot, because as we saw earlier, John Kirby was like, "We have no boots on the ground." Is that like a wink, wink? They're all wearing sandals. Like, what the hell? Like we obviously
paused.
have people there.
He paused for a second. He's like, otherwise we have no boots on the ground. But they've managed to take up all of this ground and area without any U.S. boots on the ground. He kind of paused for a moment there. He had to think about how he was going to say that.
Something that I think about too is like, the more money we send, the more weapons we send, the more Ukrainians are going to die. And at some point, they're going to run out of people. They're going to start dragging high schoolers and probably junior high schoolers into this. Like, it's going to, are they just going to keep going until there's no, military age men left in Ukraine?
Well, no, they want us to do it. So what will come next, of course, is when the money dries up, they are laying the groundwork now. Well, we had to send American troops. We have to defend the world. We have to defend NATO, and we have to defend freedom. But we have to send Americans to die in order to fight Putin. So instead, what do these Republicans want, or what did these Republicans and some Democrats actually who voted against this spending bill for Ukraine? What exactly do they want? Well, they wanted money for a U.S. border to stop the flood of illegal immigrants coming across while they picked a good day to do it. Because yesterday, by the way, a new record was set. The most illegal immigrants ever recorded by the U.S. Customs and Border Patrol in one day. And Bill Malugin was there covering this, and it was actually pretty stark. He caught it on camera. Watch.
No, it's not stopping, Dana. The numbers are actually getting even worse. Multiple CBP sources telling me this morning in the last 24 hours, Border Patrol alone has made more than 10,000 apprehensions of illegal immigrants. That does not even include CBP ports of entry. And you can see the situation here in Lukeville behind us. We got well over 800 people waiting in line here after they crossed illegally overnight, waiting to be apprehended by Border Patrol. Once again, it's like deja vu from yesterday. You can see these guys are coming in from all over the world. A lot of African men, mostly single adult men here. Some of them were setting campfires overnight in the cold, camping out here, waiting to get taken into custody by Border Patrol. But CBP sources telling me in the last 24 hours in this Tucson, Arizona sector, there were almost 2,900 apprehensions, and the Border Patrol facilities out here are currently running 200% of their capacity. That is why there are so many people out here waiting to be taken into custody by Border Patrol. Now, Arizona has a Democrat governor. Her name is Katie Hobbs. She has not yet sent any state resources down here. No Arizona troopers, no Arizona National Guard.
So all men, all military age, by the way, coming across the border and given thousands of dollars by the United States government, given UBI, universal basic income, given, a lot of them, they give cell phones, and they're released. And there you go.
Planed off to luxury hotels in New York and California. And
yeah. So they're considered like pro-Putin now in Congress if they want to stop that. You're pro-Putin if you want to stop the U.S. southern border invasion. Like, that's the message coming from neocons. That's the message coming from the Biden White House. Bill Malugin followed up those numbers, by the way, with a tweet. Per the CBP resources here, there were more than 12,000 migrant encounters at that southern border yesterday, the single highest total day ever recorded. 10,200 Border Patrol apprehensions or illegal immigrants, amongst the highest daily totals ever for the Border Patrol. That's your U.S. southern border. So let us know in the comments below, what do you think? Do we need to send Americans to die in Ukraine, or billions to Ukraine, in order to stop Putin from invading the United States of America or Europe? Because apparently that's what's coming next. He's going to invade Europe. Thank you so much for watching this segment here at Redacted. We are live every day at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, trying to share the stories that the mainstream media will not cover. You should also come over and join our community of Redacted Rebels over at redacted.inc. That's our private locals community where we can share exclusive content that we simply cannot share here on YouTube. Come over and join the rebellion together right now by going to redacted.inc. We'll see you next time.